Let's begin in the west of the continent, where a tragic attack struck a community in Sokoto State in the early hours of Sunday, resulting in the deaths of at least 6 people and the abduction of over 100 individuals. The police spokesperson in Sokoto, Ahmed Rufai, confirmed the fatalities and the mass abductions in Tudun Doki, Gwadabawa Local Government Area. Rufai indicated that while details of the attack remain sketchy, the confirmation stands at 6 people killed. He noted that the divisional police officer from Gwadabawa led a team to the community to assess the situation and restore order. Villagers reported that the assailants, estimated to be about 7 in number, launched the attack around 1:30 a.m., armed with sophisticated firearms, shooting indiscriminately at the residents. Gwadabawa, a local government in the Eastern Senatorial District of Sokoto State, had been known for its tranquility until this devastating Sunday morning assault. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Police Force says none of the protesters arrested during the October 2020 demonstration against police brutality and extrajudicial killings is still in detention. Force spokesman Muyiwa Adejobi made this known in a statement on Sunday. The police described as untrue claims by Sheikh Hussaini, a former lawmaker who represented Kaduna Central Senatorial District, that some of the youths detained for the #EndSARS protests are still in custody. At a special dinner organized to mark Democracy Day held at the State House Conference Center in Abuja on June 12th, Sani said those who participated in the protest should also be considered champions of democracy. The former lawmaker had also asked President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to pardon those incarcerated over the #EndSARS protest in 2020. However, the police said the matter had been concluded and lessons had been learned. We take a look at a business-related story where the presidency has countered a New York Times feature story titled "Nigeria Confronts Its Worst Economic Crisis in a Generation," published on June 11th. The article, authored by Ruth McLean and Ismail Awal, highlighted Nigeria's severe economic challenges, including soaring inflation and a plummeting national currency, which have left millions struggling to feed. In a statement on Sunday, the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Ononuga, criticized the feature as the typical predetermined, reductionist, derogatory, and denigrating way foreign media establishments have reported on African countries for several decades. Ononuga stated that President Bola Tinubu inherited a dead economy and is committed to resolving the nation's economic crisis. He emphasized that the dire situation Tinubu encountered necessitated his policy decisions in May and June 2023, including ending the fuel subsidy regime and unifying the multiple exchange rates. Joining us on the news is Dr. Femi Egbeshola, President, Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria, ASBON. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
All right, so how does the current economic crisis in Nigeria compare to, previous economic downturns in the country's history?
Well, all of us Nigerians are experiencing the worst economic times in our country, and all the economic indicators shows that we have the highest inflation in the history of the country at the moment. We have our naira falling day by day. Thank God it has been arrested for some months now, but it's at the lowest ebb in the history of Nigeria. We have tariffs going up every day. We have the issue of even our infrastructure going from bad to worse. We have the issue of insecurity in the land. We have food prices going up beyond the ability of a common man on the street to afford. We have myriads of economic challenges that we are facing here in Nigeria today, and that is not good for us as a country.
All right, now looking at the historical roots of Nigeria's economic struggles, do you agree with the presidency characterizing the state of the economy that they inherited as dead?
Well, by the time the current president was campaigning, he has already gotten to know the current state of the economy as at then. And one of his campaign promises was to rejig the economy. If it is dead, he already knows that it was dead before he came to power. We expect him to put up more action, more policies to be able to relieve the economy. It's no use talking about what you already know. The government of the day already know the situation.
But so far, has he been able to rejig the economy, in your opinion?
In my opinion, from the street, I would say no. The impact on the street is what is more important than what we have on the papers. Yes, a lot of work has been done, particularly by CBN, to arrest inflation and to put the economy in its right track. But then on the street, it is not yet visible. Everybody is always crying by the day because of poverty, because of inflation, because of every other factor that is not supporting the economy. So to us, we have not really seen anything good when it comes to rejigging the economy. But I'm happy that the government did react the way they reacted. It's good for us to protect our image as a country, particularly to the international community. We should be mindful of the fact that international investors also want to come to the country, and the news they read about the country is also important for their decision making. So it's good for us to make a good face to the international community. But truth be told, in the country, the economy is indeed in crisis.
Okay. Now, we were talking about, the economy earlier, and you talked about, how some of these policies have not yet been visible, on the street. Now, what is your expert's opinion on the policies, as a policy decision that the president made in May and June, and even after that, to address, that's May and June 2023, and even after that, to address the economic crisis?
The immediate pronouncement of removal of subsidy is one major giant that is responsible for the avalanche of economic crisis we had today. I would have expected governments to have put up some intervention programs in place before the removal of that subsidy. Some of the programs will have been to address the issue of transportation. That subsidy, the subsidy of fuel has taken a big chunk off. When there was a promise of CNG vehicles and all of that, I would have expected that to be on the table. We would have expected that the issue of power would have been resolved to a greater extent, because most manufacturers particularly depend on electricity, and going down to alternative form of electricity in terms of diesel and all of that with a very high cost also would drive inflation at the end of the day, and it would also drive many of the organizations to fold up because of unprofitability. So at the moment now, we expect government to begin to look at how to bring more technocrats on the table, more stakeholders on the table, to look at how we can address this economic crisis together and find a workable solution. And this should also cascade to also the subnationals. We should not leave it in the hands of the federal government alone. The state governments, even to the local governments, should also be one of the players in tackling this economic crisis. We should all have our own parts to play. Relying solely on the policies, fiscal policies from the federal government alone may not be able to get us short-term solutions that we need at the moment.
All right, now let's talk about long-term solutions now. Now, in balancing, economic growth with social welfare and also poverty reduction, what innovative solutions and strategies can Nigeria implement to diversify its economy? That's in your expert's opinion.
Well, first, I will look forward to see government liberalizing exports. At the moment, a lot of noise is on promoting exports. But if you go through the bureaucracy and the process of export, you discover that there are still so many bottlenecks. We need to begin to send our products and services out of the shores of this country to be able to earn foreign exchange that will help to strengthen our naira and also make us to be more competitive in the Nigerian market. I will also expect governments to look at working more on ease of doing business. It's very, very difficult to do business in Nigeria today, and that's why statistics shows that over 2 million businesses has folded up in the last 2 years. Government needs to begin to look at how to improve ease of doing business. We also expect government to look at how to make more intervention possible for particularly the SMEs, who are the drivers of the economy. Yes, we have some intervention in form of stipends some months ago, about 50,000 naira or so to those in the nano businesses. But the question is, what impact has it had? Have we been able to evaluate that impact? Is it actually impactful? And again, too, how do we begin to monitor some of these intervention funds to see that they go to the targeted audience, and they have the right impact. I also expect government to begin to look at how to sustain the multinationals that we already have in the country. They play a major factor. They contribute a lot to our GDP, and at the same time, they come with a lot of technology that is being transferred to the locals. And many of our SMEs are also in their value chain. If we see them exiting the country, it's time for government to begin to look at how to support these multinationals, how to begin to engage with them more meaningfully so that they can continue to grow and thrive and continue to also contribute to our economy.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Doctor, for speaking to us on this.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Lawmakers of the Delta State House of Assembly, South Nigeria, presided over by Speaker Emomoti Miguo, has lifted the suspension placed on Matthew Omonade, representing Ughelli North 1 constituency in the House. The APC lawmaker was suspended 4 weeks ago for alleged gross misconduct. News Central correspondent Austin Azu tells us more.
It was business as usual on the floor of the Delta State House of Assembly on the 14th of May when the speaker's gavel sealed the motion for the suspension of Matthew Omonude, APC member representing Ughelli North 1 constituency in the House.
This Honorable House suspend the Honorable member representing Ughelli North 1 constituency from the service of the House for a period of 14 legislative days for gross misconduct.
A month later, the lawmakers have again converged on the hallowed chambers to consider the APC lawmakers' fate in the House. Majority Leader of the House, Emeka Wobi, chairman of the ad hoc committee set up to investigate what led to the lawmakers' suspension, presented his report.
The committee took time to carefully peruse through the petition of the suspended honorable member. There, the honorable member representing the North 1 constituency, Honorable Omonade Matthew Onodigwe, was invited to appear before the committee on the 23rd day of May 2024.
The lifting of the suspension followed the adoption of the recommendations of the ad hoc committee and was unanimously adopted when put to a voice vote by the Speaker. The Speaker expressed concern over the attempt to subject the Sacred Assembly to public ridicule.
No one can militarize the law. Law is universal. Law is everywhere. Law are not textbooks. Laws are not drugs that you claim patent right. Laws in Delta State are laws in Edo State. Edo State is free to copy whatever law that is in Delta and domesticate it there.
By lifting the suspension, the APC lawmaker, who is the chairman of the House Committee on Public Petitions, is expected to resume on the next adjourned date. Meanwhile, News Central TV, which has been following up on this story, reports that the bone of contention centered on the issue of a bill on generation and distribution of electricity to be domesticated in the state. It was learned that the APC lawmaker actually carried out an extensive research on the bill, and after working on it, he passed a copy to the Speaker, who forwarded same to the Governor. And when he kept on asking the Speaker access to table it, he was denied, only for the bill to return to the House as an executive bill without crediting him on the intellectual property, amounting to alleged plagiarism. His suspension came as a punishment for daring to harass Mr. Speaker by pestering him to allow him to present the bill, which originally was his brainchild. In Asaba, for News Central, Austin Azu.
News Central now returns after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, the former presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has flagged off the party's governorship campaign ahead of the September governorship elections in Benin City, the Edo State capital. Obi, who was received by a mammoth crowd of Labour Party supporters, urged residents of the state to vote for change and a government that will be attendant to the needs of the people. Amadin Uyi reports.
The former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi was received by a mammoth crowd of party supporters in Benin City. Obi urged party faithful and residents of the state to vote for change as the Labour Party begins mobilization for the September governorship poll.
People to stop. We want a better Nigeria where everybody who feel is a part of Nigeria. We want a dome where everybody is a part of a dome.
From there, he led a team with the state governorship candidate to the palace of the revered Benin monarch to seek his blessings.
The Majesty, we're here for the palace blessing as our party will commence our campaign for the election of the governorship of Edo State. And our pleading, like we always do, is that for us to build a credible nation, it will start by having free, fair, and credible elections. Let the people elect those who serve them, so they can hold them accountable. So, Majesty, that is our simple request.
In conclusion, Your Majesty, we are hoping that we will be able to pass on the message of the Labour Party to the 18 local governments and the 192 wards of Edo State. Our party represents Papa, Mama, Pikin, the entire family, and that is what we are hoping to bring to Edo State. Governance that is people-focused, people-oriented, and people-impacting.
The state governorship election comes up on September the 21st. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has called on Nigerians to make sacrifices for the betterment of the country. The president made this call while addressing journalists on the prayer ground in Lagos in commemoration of this year's Eid al-Adha celebration. News Central's Bernard Akede has more.
Eid al-Adha, also known as the Festival of Sacrifice, is one of the most significant celebrations in the Islamic world and on the Islamic calendar. It symbolizes the ultimate devotion and submission to God, memorializing Prophet Ibrahim's unwavering obedience to Allah's commands. However, in this year 2024, there have been challenges in celebrating this year's Eid. Many Muslim faithful, especially here in Lagos, have complained about how the economic situation has strongly been biting on the citizens and how challenging it has been for them to purchase certain food items which they would use to celebrate this year's Eid. Items like rice, pepper, tomatoes, and other cooking ingredients have clearly skyrocketed this year. And even on today, the day of Eid, some Muslims could still be seen purchasing rams which they believe they should have bought days ago. The prices of these two have hit the ceiling.
Like this big two, where you are seeing it now, somewhere they'll sell it for you 1.3, 1.2. Yes. Here, if you have a 750, 800, you carry it. Like last year, this one, if you get a 600 or 650. So see, the difference, we didn't put the high price.
While some Muslim faithful remained at home celebrating the festival with family and friends and visitors, others were able to visit malls and parks where they equally celebrated this year's Eid. In his address during the national Eid prayers, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu reiterated the preaching of the chief imam, stating that Nigerians need to make sacrifices.
We have been told by the chief imam and we follow the path of sacrifice. Sacrifice being a very good citizen. It comes with responsibilities. as citizens. What do you do as a citizen to be a very committed member of our society?
However, with the difficulty in purchasing food items and other items from the market because of the rising cost of living in Nigeria, these sacrifices may be difficult to ask of the citizens. Many Nigerians believe that if anyone should make sacrifices, it should be the ruling class. The hope and the wish of most Nigerians now is that following the prayers of this year's Eid, the leaders will hearken to the call of the citizens and ensure that Nigerians will be able to live affordable lives such that making sacrifices will not be a challenge for Nigerians and will be a priority for the ruling class. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akede.
Thank you, Bernard, for that report. Now joining us on the news is Ustaz Abdulgani Raji, NASFAT's National Dawah Officer, to speak on the significance of the event. Hello, Ustaz. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.
All right, so let's begin with, what is the significance of the sacrifice carried out in this season?
Okay, historically, the festival that we are celebrating now dates back to the time of the father of the faithful, known in Islam as Ibrahim, and also known in Christendom as Abraham, when he was asked by God to sacrifice his son Ismail, and he was willing to comply with the commandment of God before God Almighty ransomed or substituted the son with a ram. He slaughtered the ram, and today we commemorate that day because Ibrahim has been put up for us Muslims as our leader, our role model. So we want to emulate him. We want to also replicate his faith in God. He was a man of faith. He was a man who gave himself wholeheartedly to God. He was loved by God, and is still loved by God. So we also want to demonstrate that we admire what Ibrahim did then, and then we also want to show that we love God. So Eid that we celebrate is a reminder to us that we need to have faith in God, we need to believe in him, we need to build a relationship with him. And Eid is also a time for love, a time for showing love to kids and kin, a time for coming together, a time for giving, a time for sharing, a time for, showing love to members of your family, a time for community living, a time for demonstrating that you cannot live in isolation. On Eid Day, we all come together, the rich and the poor, to commemorate the historical event that took place during the time of Ibrahim. So we come together as one united ummah, one united group. So it's a time to show love, a time to show devotion to God, and it's a time to also review our relationship with God, to ask ourselves some very important questions. How have we been relating with God? How have we been relating with his creatures? We do tell people that beyond the slaughtering of rams, beyond the merrymaking, the Eid period is also a time for us to check ourselves. Have I been living a righteous life? How much have I impacted my community? Because a lot of people think that when we talk about the festival, just put on your best clothes, use your perfume, slaughter your ram. You can get the biggest ram, slaughter it. Eid is much more than that. Eid is also a time for us to show love.
Yes, you've actually talked about, that some of the specific things that one is actually meant to do. But what about, what should be avoided during this season?
Okay, thank you very much. During this season, things forbidden by God. I know that some people during these festivities, they want to engage in things forbidden by God, such as alcohol drinking. This is not allowed in Islam. Some would say that they want to celebrate the Eid, and then by so doing, they actually engage in things forbidden by God. Because as we have been taught, this period is actually a period for us to reap a lot of rewards from God. But for us to get rewards from God, we have to avoid things forbidden by God. You can't say you are celebrating the Eid and then you buy alcohol, you buy things that God Almighty has forbidden for us. So you avoid things forbidden by God, and then you also try as much as possible to avoid harming your fellow human beings. For instance, now, during this festive period, some people may want to be ostentatious. They want to engage in showing off. I want to show pepper to my neighbor. I want to show that I'm richer than him. I want to show that my family is more beautiful than his family. I want to show that my own ram is bigger than his own ram. That is not what we are doing. When we celebrate this festival, it is God Almighty that we are relating with. Is the one we are relating with. You are not celebrating the festival just to spite your neighbors or to spite anybody who has had a misunderstanding with you. So we need to avoid this. And that is why when you celebrate this Eid, we also need to mention that this period is also a time for us to forgive those who have wronged us. Okay. So these are part of the things that you should avoid during this festive period.
All right, well, thank you so much, Ustaz, for reminding us about the spirit of Eid al-Adha. All right, so with that, we'll hand over to Marvelous Obomanu. Hello, Marvelous, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please go ahead.
All right, where I am exactly is called Abuja Metro Station. And of course, you are aware that 2 weeks ago, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and of course, the President Bola Tinubu, actually, inaugurated the Abuja Rail Mass Transit, which commenced operation about 2 weeks ago. And we're here this afternoon to monitor, this is a day after the Eid celebration, to look at how, passengers, Abuja residents are using this particular free mass transit. And what I can tell you that we got here around 9 o'clock, so the station manager told us that there are usually 4 routes that goes every day in this place. One goes around 8 o'clock in the morning. The second one goes by 10:30. The other one goes by 3:30, and the other one goes by 5:30. That the one for the morning by 8 o'clock had already left. It has departed when we got down here, so that we should wait by 3:30 so that we can monitor the one coming from the airport. And then when we're here, we saw passengers disembarking from the Abuja airport, those that were supposed to join the one by 3:30. So they were disembarking from the airport, and then we had the opportunity to speak with a lot of them who expressed optimism that this particular free train service will actually ease the high cost of transportation and also help to reduce the traffic, decongest the traffic within and around the city center. And what I can comfortably tell you is that ever since this free train service commenced, we've noticed, a bit of possible traffic is clearing a lot. There are places, and when you come to Abuja, you notice that there is always a traffic. Places like the Maraba axis, the city center. So since this particular train service started, we have noticed that there is a free decongested traffic system here in Abuja. And some of them are saying that yes, they like the fact that government made it free from now to December, but the cost of maintaining this place, paying workers, make sure that the place is maintained, will be too much on the government, that they would appreciate if government can say, okay, let's reduce the price. Maybe let's do 50% cut. Maybe let the people pay 50% and government will cover it. While some other people are saying that if government has factored in that they will do a free service till December, that means they've looked at the cost and the budget and they know this is what they can do. They will do it. And then some other people are saying, okay, they can make it free from now to December, and then when they resume collecting money, they can make it free for children. And some are saying that children will not enjoy the train service because they go to school from Monday to Friday. Probably they will make it free during the weekend. So these are some of the divergent views raised by some of the passengers here this morning.
All right, well, thank you so much, Marvelous, for that update. We will reconnect with you in our subsequent bulletin to give us an update when the train coming in actually, comes to the station. But thank you so much. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now to health stories. The Lagos State government has activated its Public Health Emergency Operations Center, PHEOC, at Mainland Hospital, Yaba, following a cholera outbreak. Now, this is as the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, called on the state government to urgently provide high-standard water and sanitation facilities to communities to help curb the disease. In a statement released Sunday on the government's website, PHEOC was convened to address a rising number of severe gastroenteritis cases across multiple local government areas in Lagos. The Lagos State Ministry of Health confirmed on Saturday that there are 350 suspected cholera cases in 29 wards across various local government areas, with 17 confirmed cases and 15 deaths. Our correspondent Bernard Akede joins us to give us an update from the streets of Lagos. Hello, Bernard. Thank you for joining us. What's the update on the cholera outbreak in Lagos? Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me, Dash. And you've already given the statistics, in Lagos, as it were, and this cholera outbreak seems to be spreading across the country. But here in Lagos, as I mentioned, you've given the statistics, and the Commissioner for Health did mention or did lay emphasis on places like Ikoyi, Victoria Island, and Lekki Axis. Already, these places are known to not have potable water, to speak. Water consumption in these places is a bit tricky, and that's because one would expect that areas like these that are around the canal would have proper water treatments so that water is recycled and can be used in homes. Unfortunately, such is not the case, and I'll show you why. To my left now, there's a canal here, and there are several of such canals across this area, Victoria Island, Lekki, and Ikoyi. These canals carry water from different places of the state through some residential and commercial areas. Here we're around Lekki, Ologolo, and this is a commercial stroke residential area. Unfortunately, you can see from the footage in front of you, from the video in front of you, that the canal is not properly taken care of. Of course, these are areas that can cause spread of cholera. There also are cases of open defecation in these places. People cook and sell food, drinks as well around here. And so when this does happen, it's not perfect to see the reason why cholera can spread around places like these.
All right. But what about government's efforts? Do you have an idea if the measures that, is actually being taken by the government to contain the outbreak and, to be able to prevent further spread would actually work?
Could you please take that question again?
Okay, I'm talking about the government's efforts. Now, I'm asking if you have an idea if the measures that's being taken by the government to be able to prevent the further spread of cholera in Lagos State is effective or is being effective right now or will take effect, in later time.
Well, I think it's going to be, a combined effort by both the government and then the residents of the state as well. There's just so much that the government can do. As you mentioned earlier, the government has put in place several health centers in several places where cases of cholera can be reported and patients patients basically can be cared for and looked after. But then the onus will also lie on the citizens as well to ensure that their surroundings, like the one you've just seen, are kept clean, to ensure that cooking, consumption of food and drinks is not done in areas like this so as to prevent and avoid the spread of cholera. So again, the government would play its part, and we expect that the government will be as effective and efficient as they possibly can. But then the people have to also combine their efforts to ensure that surroundings, living environments, vicinities are clean. But one other thing as well, we're beginning to see pictures, videos, and short messages concerning how to give first aid treatment to people who suspected have or are showing signs of cholera. I think also the government will have to intensify efforts on informing people how to care for patients who seem to have been showing signs and symptoms of cholera, mixing of oral rehydration therapy, that's salt and water mixture, and very quick first aid treatment for persons who are showing these signs before they can even get to these health centers that are around them.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bernard, for giving us an update on that. Even though we did hear a while back that this cholera outbreak it actually happened on the island. It affected a lot of people on the island more than on the mainland. But would actually, get our sources right and be able to bring you an update on this outbreak as as time goes by. Thank you so much, Bernard. All right, away from that, South African former President Jacob Zuma said Sunday his new party will join an opposition alliance to coordinate resistance to the government while maintaining its challenge to the general election results. The MK said it will join a newly formed parliamentary grouping that includes several mostly leftist opposition parties represented in parliament. Called the Progressive Caucus, it is currently led by the radical leftist Economic Freedom Fighters EFF, which won 39 seats in the new parliament. Mkonto Wesizwe party spokesperson Lamulo Delela called for a peaceful protest.
They chose to. We will therefore at the right time call on our people to demonstrate their dissatisfaction against all these injustices peacefully, in the streets, in the courts, and even in parliament until our grievances have been addressed. We have now launched a new electoral court challenge and given that court the evidence we have collected. We shall also participate in the case lodged by the ATM in the electoral court. We shall leave no stone unturned. Regarding the current political situation, we need to educate our people that there is no government. We need to educate our people that there is no government of national unity in South Africa.
In other news from around the world, the German Chamber of Commerce in China says tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles will not increase European automaker competitiveness. The head of the German Chamber of Commerce, Maximilian Buttek, said at a presentation on Friday that they would rather advocate for investing in the competitiveness of the European Union rather than trying to protect the auto industry. German Economy Minister Robert Habeck will visit China this week for talks on economic ties between the two countries, with his spokesperson noting that the minister will not be able to avoid addressing the issue of EU tariffs.
The industry also made quite clear statements that tariffs, as suggested now by the EU, will not increase the competitiveness of the automotive industry. And therefore, we rather advocate for investing into the competitiveness of the European Union rather on trying to protect the auto industry. And I mean, you cannot protect.
Chinese Premier Li Jiang said the potential for China-Australian cooperation is huge as he hailed the exciting prospects for the future development of relations. He said this as he gave a toast at a luncheon during his official visit. He is the highest-ranking Chinese official to visit Australia since 2017. Li held high-level talks with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese following a welcome ceremony at Parliament House. Starting in 2020, a slew of Australia's most lucrative export commodities were effectively banned from China as diplomatic relations between the two countries rapidly unraveled. But as ties have gradually improved under the new government in Canberra, Beijing has rolled back most of these costly trade barriers. In business, the mass exit of multinationals from the Nigerian economy has cost the country a 94 trillion naira loss of output in 5 years, according to an economist and former director of research and advocacy at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Nigeria, Dr. Vincent Nwani. Multiple multinationals have left Nigeria by either scaling down operations, transferring ownership, or selling their stakes, the most recent being the sale of beverage company Diego's 58.02% shareholding in Guinness Nigeria to Tolaram Group on June 11, 2024. Nwani said he arrived at this data by considering the valuation of multinationals and by calculating their value addition by 5 to 10 times. The economist explained that he checked the contribution of all multinationals leaving the Nigerian economy by analyzing how many Nigerians such multinationals employed the salary they paid their workers, and their turnover. In the world of sports, Regina Otu, Yewande Balogun, and Amanda Mbadi have been released by French D1 Arkema outfit Saint Etienne. Now, the trio were released by Saint Etienne following the expiration of their contract. The Greens also released 11 other players following the conclusion of the 2023-2024 season. Balogun, a goalkeeper, is leaving Levert after 2 years. She made 5 appearances during her time at the club. Otu played a key role in Saint Etienne's promotion to the top flight last season. The midfielder made 20 appearances for the club in the 2023-2024 campaign. Mbadi, who arrived from Tonon Evian last summer, played 14 matches this season. Still talking sports, Favour Ofili has emerged as Nigeria's new 100-meter champion, securing her spot at the Paris Olympic Games. Ofili's triumphant performance at the Olympic trials in Benin City, not only crowned her as the fastest woman in the country, but also marked her first race on home soil since 2021. At the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium, Ofili continued her impressive 2024 season, living up to her status as the pre-race favorite. Her winning time, 11.06 seconds, surpassed the Paris Olympics qualifying time of 11.10 seconds. Now, this performance marks a pivotal moment in Ofili's career as she entered the trials not just aiming for the national title, but also with the goal of meeting the Olympic qualifying time in the 100-meter event. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that 6 killed, scores abducted in Sokoto Sallah Day attack. We also told you that Lagos opens emergency center as Rivers Ekiti activates surveillance for cholera. Finally, you heard that South Africa Opposition Alliance calls for peace protests. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.